All right, welcome to part two. We left off talking about these thermistors right here. And just to recap again, I'm going to show you what's going on here, how this computer tells what temperature the engine is. So up here we have 5-volt reference, comes through a fixed resistor, goes down here, gets spliced off. Right here is a voltmeter. And then down this way it goes to this variable resistor based on temperature of the engine, out, up, back to the computer ground. And again, based on this resistance, that changes the voltage between this resistor and this resistor, because this is fixed at 5 volts. Remember, if this was open, I'd have 5 volts all through here. If this was shorted to ground, it'd be 0 volts. So because it's a variable resistance, this section right here, the green wire, that changes voltage based on that resistance. So the computer has a voltmeter, where that squiggly line is, and it's monitoring that voltage. And based on its mapping and programming, it can tell what temperature the engine is. Now we can use voltage readings to determine fault. We know that in a normally working circuit that we're going to have 0.1 or less right here all the time, and then this wire changes based on temperature of the engine. Or if I unplug this sensor, this should go to 5 volts. So stuff like that we can do to check and make sure and see if it's the wiring or the sensor. I can unplug the sensor and check for 5 volts right there. I can plug it in and check for 0.1 volt there. I can look at the scan tool data and see what does it say for voltage, toggle it from temperature to voltage, and then back probe right there at TW2 and make sure it's the same as what the computer's reading, because it should be. I can use all that stuff to kind of figure out what's going on. Yeah, and then anyway, this is kind of a cool little schematic too. It shows us, the battery, some circuit protection devices. Here's a relay, another circuit protection device, comes through a diode right here, comes down and operates the coil of this relay, goes over to ground, which goes to a transistor, which we'll talk about in a little bit. All right, let's see here. So then we have variable reluctance sensors. Like I said, are also known as vehicle speed sensors, VRS sensors. They're used for crankshaft sensors. These components are used to determine if something's moving and at what RPM is it moving at. Again, crankshaft position sensor, wheel speed sensor, these are really common spots to put these 2-wire reluctance sensors. And basically what they have is a little tone ring up here. As this moves around, this tone ring has ferrous metal, magnetic metal. Metal can be magnetized. It gets close to this speed sensor, which is a magnet that's wrapped with a coil wire. So as these tones come in and out of proximity, a high and a low, it's going to generate or alter that magnetic field, which induces a current in this coil wire here, and then that sends a signal to the computer. And the computer can monitor what's called, it's an AC sine wave, so it kind of looks like an AC voltage going up and down. We'll talk more about that next week. But that's what a variable reluctance sensor does, and it's a 2-wire sensor. Here's a couple of pictures of one. Here you have that tone ring right here, and then here's that sensor. Inside there's wire wrapped around a magnet. Notice the skipped tooth right here, a couple teeth skipped. This is so the computer can determine the position of this crankshaft, or this shaft here. So you're going to have this notch missing, and the computer can count teeth to figure out where it's at in 360-degree rotation. Another style you have here is the magnets are on the ring instead of a tone ring. There's actually magnets on here, multi-poles, north-south, north-south, north-south. As this rotates around, it's going to induce a current in this sensor right here. So very similar, but a little bit different. And then we got 3-wire sensors. All right, these come in analog and digital. Your analog is like your throttle position sensor, TPS, also APP, accelerator pedal position sensor. Most 3-wire sensors that are in the potentiometer family, they're all analog. Right here is the sensor. It's always opposite of where the throttle cable is. If it doesn't have a throttle cable, like it's a modern vehicle with a drive-by-wire or throttle-by-wire to be more accurate, it's going to have a motor right here, and on the opposite side you'll have a TP. Or on the new ones, the motor and the TP are all built into one unit. So it just depends on what generation you're looking at and working on. But the cool thing about this is they all work basically the same. So once you understand how the majority of these sensors work, you can apply this to many, many different sensors. And as technology changes, you'll be right there on the cutting edge, and you can keep rolling. If you learn how one sensor works on one particular car, that's called case law. You're only as good as that one car, or you're only as good as what somebody told you. But if you understand how all these different types of sensors work, you can apply that to many different brands, years, and As technology changes, the physics doesn't. So learn the physics part of it. And then you have Hall effect sensor here. This is a digital signal. It generates, again, a digital signal versus this one's analog. This one's digital, like a square wave. This one is a little bit different how that works. It's still a 3-wire sensor, but it has a power and a ground and a signal wire. Again, we'll talk more about diagnosing these next week. These are typically used, like right here, this one's for ignition, camshaft position sensor. They could be used for steering angle sensors, window pulsers, where the window sensors are. A lot of uses for those. Transmission sensors, vehicle speed sensors. So here's another look at a throttle position sensor. Basically, this is a potentiometer. You could turn this knob right here, terminal A, B, and C, or 1, 2, 3. If you look to the right here, you have 1 coming in. Here's a fixed resistor, and 3, where the wiper picks up 2 somewhere in that resistance path. So it's not just a wire, it's a resistive strip like this right here, this element. So basically what happens is, say number 1, you got 5 volts coming in, it goes through a resistor all the way around here to 3, which is ground. 2 is a signal wire. As this position sweeps, it's going to pick up the voltage changing from 5 all the way down to 0. So that's kind of how TP works. What we see typically on TP is they run about 0.9 volts to 4.5 volts, 4 volts, and that changes with brand. Some are a little lower, some are a little higher. But basically they're not 0 to 5 because they have to allow for self-testing, which again we'll talk about next week. But these sensors will run, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, depending on brand, 1 volt, up to about 4, 3.7 to 4.5 volts, just depends on the brand. So, but you can diagnose this pretty easily, and we'll save that for next week. Give you something to look forward to. Here's a schematic of that now on the typical vehicle. 5 volt reference comes in, goes over here, goes through that fixed resistor, and then back over to sensor ground. And then here's your signal wire. This is what the computer is using to determine the position of the throttle. So as the throttle moves, this sweep moves, and it picks up from 5 volts down to 0. Or again, from about 4.5 to 0.9, we'll say, roughly. Okay, and we'll talk more about diagnosing next week. Here's a Hall effect sensor. This one's a little bit different. If you look, there's no indication of what's going on inside here. It's a solid state device. You're going to have a magnet on here, and then you have your chip assembly, and these vanes right here, 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 and here. As they rotate around, they're going to kind of disrupt or change the magnetic field. They alter it through the permeability and reluctance changing. And then that signal gets generated, because again, this little solid state device is a power and a ground. It's going to generate a digital square wave signal coming out right here, and that goes into the computer, and it's going to monitor that with the internal voltmeter. Again, these are used for camshaft position sensors, steering angle sensors, window position sensors. They're more accurate, so they're pretty good. Pretty good signal. Excuse me. And then we have transistors, of course. Now, transistors can get really, really complicated if you want to let them, but I'm going to try to treat these like switches. They're kind of like switches and relays combined. What they do is they can let a computer or solid state device control them. They are solid state devices, meaning no moving parts. Basically, if a computer controls the base of these guys, it can let current go through that. There are different types. There's high side and low side drivers. Again, they're known as drivers or transistors. High side or low side meaning they can control power to a component or control ground to a component. They are different transistors. Like this one right here, you have NPN, and this one's a PNP, and that just means the doping type right here, the base. Is it a negative type, positive, negative, or is it positive, negative, positive? Again, we can let these get really, really complicated, but you're not going to be diagnosing the transistors directly in the car. You're going to be diagnosing what they're doing. So again, they're basically switches, but they're also relays. And here's what I mean. If I control this base, I can turn this from open to close, like a switch, send current through. But the more current I send through this base, the more current comes through the collector and the emitter right here. That's what C is, collector, E's emitter. I can send more current through here with the more I send through B. So a small current controls a large current, and they're directly proportional. But again, it's kind of like a switch, it's kind of like a relay. But when we diagnose them as if they're switches, because that's what they're used like, the switches. High side or low side, and you know them as switch to ground or load to ground. Again, we'll talk more about that and next week. Here's a cool picture to show you what I mean by load to ground or switch to ground. So down here we have shift solenoid valves. These are high side. This is a high side driver transistor right here. The computer controls that base. It's going to come through right here, and it's going to signal all of these little solenoids, these coils, these solenoids. It's going to send power to these guys, and then they're grounded. They have a hard ground right here. So this would be like a load to ground, okay, right here. But if you look right here, oh, here you go, yeah, load to ground again. So see how these are all grounded right here? This comes up to that coil, and then it goes to the computer. So the computer's sending power down to this coil to control it like a high side driver. So that's what that is doing. Here you got some main shaft speed sensors. Not telling you a whole lot what's going inside here. Looks like they're digital, but judging by this box. So probably a Hall effect or 3 wires. Just guessing. Pressure sensors we won't talk about yet. Let's see what else we got. Oh, here's a switch, and then here's a fixed resistor in here. So it's going to send out a 5-volt reference or a 12-volt, more than likely 5 volts, comes through this fixed resistor, goes out over to the switch and down to ground. When the switch is open, this little squiggly line picks up 5 volts, right? Ohm's law, voltage up to the open. So out of this right here, 5 volts goes through the resistor. This is all 5 volts up to the tip of that switch that's open. When it closes, this whole section goes to 0.1 or less, which means that voltmeter reads 0.1 or less. So that's how that uses a switch and a resistor and a voltmeter to determine the position of this pressure switch. And then here's some switches here with similar concepts there. All right, let's see, moving on. Oh, yeah, no, we'll do that next week. That almost got you. So, summary. What did we learn today? We learned a lot. All right, we went over, reviewed the basic 5, those 5 things every component needed. You know, battery, circuit protection device, control device, a load, and conductors. We added capacitors and diodes to that. We also talked about coils, known as inductors, about how we use electromagnetic field to operate things like solenoids, which can move a plunger or an arm, a lever, like a door lock actuator to move something. We can also use coils and relays to operate a switch. Allow us to use a small current to control a large current, and allows a computer to turn on components and devices. We learned about a few 2-wire sensors, fixed resistors, thermistors, and how those circuits operate. We also learned about a few 3-wire sensors, on analog and digital. And again, next week I'm going to draw out some more schematics, and we'll talk more about diagnosing. I'm going to build those circuits, and then I'll show you a little bit more about transistors, how we diagnose those high side, low side drivers, and how we diagnose the circuits that they operate. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email contact is on the syllabus. But that wraps it up for this week. Don't forget to participate in your discussion. Again, looking for something academic of collegiate level. Now, I'm not really counting words. I just want you to summarize what you learned, kind of look at the description in that discussion, and try and hit all of those points that I asked you to mention. Okay, so thanks for listening to 2 parts of this. And again, if you have any questions, email me. It is in my syllabus online. All right.